Welcome everyone to Comics from the Multiverse episode 302. I am Peter and joining me as always is Matt.
Hey, what's up?
Connor unfortunately couldn't make it this week.
He's gone missing. Last seen at an ice hockey game.
Break out the violins.
Yeah.
The sad music. But we're here to talk about DC Comics when the comics came out this week that we read, which this week includes Nightwing, issue 91, The Flash 781, Batman Superman World's Finest, issue 2, Batman the Night, issue 4, Catwoman Lonely City, issue 3, The Nice House in the Lake, issue 8, and Refrigerator Full of Heads, issue 6. So, nice kind of middle amount of books this week. It's probably going to be a slightly breezier show though, because there's not really any or much news to talk about. But that's okay. I think after the last couple of weeks, it's nice to have a breezier show. So we'll dive into it and we'll get into things and no doubt a bit of shenanigans before we actually get to the books as per always. But there's always time for a top 10. It's always time for the Comixology top 10 at the time of recording. So, Matt, you're not going to guess what number one is.
I'm not. So oh man,
you're never going to guess what number one is. Arguably, it shouldn't even really be here, but I see why it technically counts as far as Amazon's like charts are concerned.
So I'm guessing it's a manga of some kind that I've never heard of.
because I exclude the publishers that do the mangas.
Gotcha. Okay.
I just include DC, Marvel, Image, Dark Horse, IDW, Boom, Dynamite. I throw in Valiant and Archie. Right, all the
right, the big names.
Anything that would actually be in the top 10 should be there. But it is a Marvel book technically, but it's actually a Marvel role-playing game guide. So you were never going to get that. You were never going to.
Cool. I mean, like, Amazon, get your stuff together, please.
I guess technically because it's comics related, they're counting it in the comics charts. So it's a bit of a technicality there, which is a shame because if you didn't count that, then DC would be number one. But
So I'm gonna guess then that it's Nightwing.
It's actually not.
What?
No. No.
Nice House.
What can I say? No, it's not my Nice House. It's Mark Waid. Mark Waid's a draw brother.
Hey.
Yeah.
There we go.
World's Finest.
Drop a rocket. Him and Mora, tag team of the year.
Yeah. That's number 2. And then number 3 is Nightwing. So Nightwing, not far behind. Number 4 is Avengers issue 55. And
That's still Aaron.
Yeah, still Aaron, yeah.
Shit, I gotta get caught up. Last thing I remember was Khonshu and Moon Knight wrecking havoc. And that might have been over a year ago at this point.
I mean, I've not read since like issue 18 or something like that, so you're way ahead of me. And then number 5 is Hulk issue 6. So you got some more. There's a lot of Marvel here in the middle of this top 10.
Donny Cates, that makes sense.
Then you got Wolverine issue 20, or Boy Percy.
Yep.
Still doing Wolverine. And then number 7 is Captain America issue 0. I guess they're relaunching Captain America.
Yeah, and it's Kelly and Lansing, and I might pick that up just to see what that's like. I did not realize this came out this week because I'm so out on Marvel.
Yeah, it's got an interesting cover. I'll give it that at the very least.
Yeah. I just remember one of them talking it up, going to Disneyland and going to meet the walk around Cap character and telling them that he's writing stories about him. So I thought that was pretty funny.
Then we're back to some DC books for the rest of the top 10. So number 7 is Batman the Night issue 4. Number 9 is The Flash issue 781, and number 10 is Catwoman Lonely City issue 3. So that's 5 out of the 10 is DC. It'd actually be 6. So if you take out that role playing game guide, if you want to like exclude that and bump everything up a slot, then the number 10 would then be Wonder Girl's issue that came out this week, the Trial of the Amazons book. So DC would have 6 out of 10 in that case. And then after that is Robin's, and then Nice House, and then Earth Prime. So basically what I'm saying this here is that Marvel got 4 books in the top 10, and then fell off a cliff because then it's just DC, and even Boom's and like the Power Rangers issues like there before any more Marvel stuff. So
I was seeing something on Twitter that I forget who it was. It's someone that runs a comic shop. Talking about that there was a final order cut off for Marvel, but it was only for 5 books, and they were wondering if like the paper shortage had something to do with that.
Hmm.
And it just seems like somehow Marvel seems to be doing less books, and like I know my shop still gets them from the old distributor, and there's been a couple times where Marvel books haven't been in there on Wednesday, right? So, because now he gets DC books on Monday, he doesn't put them out till Wednesday, but because DC's publishing date is now on Tuesdays, uh,
So, but
and
he holds them till Wednesday though.
yeah, because that's when most people know to come in still. I'm sure if I wanted to go in and grab my books, I'm sure they would be there for me. But it's
I
just
mean,
so much of a
legally he's
habit.
allowed to sell them. I mean, it's
Yeah, he does. He just most people don't come until Wednesdays because it's just how us comic people don't like change. Um, but yeah, he usually just holds them till Wednesday. I- I'm sure if I needed them on Tuesday for any reason, I could go in there and he'd have them ready to go. Um, but I haven't seen Marvel books in quite a while. I am picking up the Captain Carter book just because I love that character so much. But going and checking the wall just in case I want to grab something different. Not a lot of Marvel. It's very weird compared to other times where like a bunch of other characters had like miniseries. Like there's that Kang one going on for a minute. Yeah, the Trial of Magneto.
mm.
Um, and it just seems like it's kind of sparse. Which I remember DC went through one of those kind of phases too, where it was just the same books, constant.
Yeah, I mean, it just could be like an off week where they're just not publishing
Yeah,
that much, and that's just
yeah,
that happens. I mean, DC
could
tends
be.
to be a week 5, but it
Hmm.
happens from time to time and other
Yeah.
reasons. Yeah, so DC did all right in the top 10 this week.
Hmm.
Certainly not too shabby. Nice to see the world's finest book doing well.
That is.
So it's cool. It's cool. Hey Matt, do you know what's funny?
What's funny?
You're a Harry Potter fan, right? You like Harry Potter.
Yeah. I don't want to hear about Secrets of Dumbledore underperforming.
Well, tough because I'm going to talk
Yeah,
about it.
I knew you were gonna do it. I saw you doing a victory lap about Sonic. So
It was just funny to me that Sonic 2, which is like 2 weeks
yeah.
old, beat it on Monday, and maybe even days after that. I don't know. I haven't checked. In fact, I'm going to
Yeah.
Box Office
So
Mojo right now and find out.
as someone that has seen Secrets of Dumbledore and wasn't that excited, it's pretty good. It's a lot better than the previous one, but that franchise is not doing so well, just as a whole, without getting into specifics. Just meta wise, I understand why it's down. And Sonic's a juggernaut, man. I've talked to more people that have seen Sonic than I did, or Sonic 2, than I did that even new Sonic 1 came out.
Yeah, I haven't seen
So,
Sonic. Oh, it was only a week old. Sonic 2 was only a week old. But still, I mean, the fact
yeah.
that the new Harry Potter franchise movie came out
Yeah.
and then
Which,
started
that,
losing days because Sonic 2 beat
yeah.
it on Wednesday as well. So they've been
Yeah.
they swapped victories throughout the week. Friday had new releases, obviously, so neither
Yeah.
won. But
again, wasn't a fan of that second one. That second one left a real bad taste in my mouth. We didn't even get tickets to see this one until the day of, which is very rare anymore. Because I like to plan out what I'm doing for the weekend. And theater was kind of sparse. Not empty, but definitely not at the levels when we've been to other Potter movies. So I know we also went on a Saturday afternoon. Maybe that's not prime Potter, but like even I wasn't that jazzed for it. But it surprised me. Maybe going in with low expectations does that. And I've yet to see either Sonic movie, so I'm going to count that as a win for me.
Honestly, it was shocking to me as well because the big new release this weekend, that one Friday, was The Bad Guys, but number 2 is The Northman, which made 5 million, and I'm like, obviously I care more about The Northman than anything else on this list, but I feel like in its second weekend, the Harry Potter movie should be beating The Northman from a financial perspective.
I will tell you that I went and saw The Northman last night at like a 7:00 showing, and there was way more people for The Northman than there was for Harry Potter. It was surreal. So that's, I mean, which is cool because I feel like it's not that I've seen The Lighthouse, right? But Eggers is a director that I feel more people should be aware of. just based off of The Witch and The Northman. So it's pretty cool that the marketing, because when I went and saw The Witch, I was the only person in the theater, which made for a creepy watch. But yeah, so the marketing for The Northman must have been really well because, not that it's a small movie, because it's definitely not small, but for an independent,
I mean, it is small compared to your big studio movies.
So, and I will say this, Pete, if you had to guess how I felt about it, knowing about me.
Well, I'm conflicted because on the one hand, the subject matter is way up your street, but on the other hand, it's the director of The Lighthouse, so it's...
Yeah, but who's also directed The Witch, which I liked, right?
Yeah, but it's like, how art house is it? Is it art house enough to upset Matt?
No. So my wife didn't go with me. Me and my brother went, and I left there. I left the movie theater listening to some Amon Amarth, which is Viking death metal. And had I kicked in the door to come home, I would have been in trouble, so I didn't. But I was amped up enough after The Northman that it was a possibility.
Of course she didn't go. She didn't want to feel like the other woman sitting next to you while your wife, the Vikings, are on screen.
Right? Oh my god, and how was Skarsgård? So I thought Skarsgård was closer, to your age or my age. This dude's 45 and looks never been more jacked.
Oh jeez.
Like, yeah, like I know PEDs exist in acting, but like whatever he's on, man. And it might just be good genetics too.
I mean, that makes sense because I'm thinking about it because his first big thing was probably True Blood, and I was only 18, 19, I think, when that started.
Right, but I thought like maybe he was just playing, like, he's a vampire, right? He's supposed to look younger, maybe playing older, right? But yeah, now dude's 45, is jacked to the gills, and I just watching him do these berserker scenes that you see in the trailer, you're just like, there's not a stand-in. That's all him. Like, he's jacked. He looks like The Rock, but not as, not as big. But like his muscles had muscles. But yeah, no, I definitely. I told Connor he should see it on the biggest screen he can. I know he's been a little bit wary to go back to the theater. But you'll definitely enjoy it, I think.
It actually came out here a week earlier. I'm a little worried that because I didn't notice it came out that I might not have a chance now because it doesn't seem like the sort of movie that will have a lot of showings for a long time.
Yeah,
I'm checking now. Apparently, it's down to like 2 showings a day, and they're both like quite late now.
Damn, that's a shame because this is something you should see on a big screen.
Hold on, let me check during the week. Let's see.
Yeah, brutal, visceral, but not in a way that makes you want to look away. It's just there's some elements to it that, as someone that loves the whole Viking culture, it definitely gets onto some of the darker aspects there, not just the violence, but inside the culture that's tough to watch. So, and Eggers does not shy away from it at all. In fact, it did after.
I would expect him to. I mean,
yeah.
Under your lobster.
I might have to watch Lighthouse now. So,
I'm not actually. On the subject of you watching our house stuff, you have been falling in love with Twin Peaks. So,
yes, I have.
So, anything's possible.
I wouldn't say in love. I would say that I am infatuated with it.
It's love. You just don't know it yet, but it's love.
So I was telling the guy, my comic shop owners, we talk TV a lot. I told him I started watching. And like you, he'd been recommending me to watch, knowing my taste. So I told him I finally started, and I go, I'm enjoying what I'm watching, right? But there's a compulsion to it. And I said, it's not like a car crash where you can't look away, because it's not that at all. But it's almost like just that, like, let's say a homeless person with a hula hoop. And you're just like, where do you get that hula hoop? Why is he so good at hula hooping? And I have all these questions. And the show has me come back. I watched an episode this morning before we recorded.
How far are you in now? How many episodes do you watch?
I am only on I just finished episode 4, which is listed as episode 3 because the pilot really doesn't count in the episode order.
It's kind of counts as a TV movie, and then afterwards, yeah. Well, see, it's the end of episode 3 that's kind of where it, it properly starts to really become Twin Peaks in a lot of ways. So watching it, fun fact about my dad, I get a lot of my taste from my dad when it comes to movies. Like, he took me to see Last Crusade when I was like 4.
So that's one of the first movie going experiences I can remember. He hated Twin Peaks. It wasn't for him. It wasn't his taste. I remember him winning a tank top from Blockbuster when Fire Walk with Me came out because we would rent movies so much. And I remember him telling the person at the counter, well, good, I have something to use as a rag, because that's how much he did not like Twin Peaks. So I had a lot of negativity going into it, and I'd seen like a lot of pop culture-y takes, like The Simpsons parody on it, where it's just kind of weird for weird's sake. And watching the first, like the pilot, the TV movie, whatever we're calling it, I was like, when is this supposed to get weird? Like, this is ethereal, and it's kind of David Lynchian, but not like that. And then episode 3 hits, at least the last 8 minutes. And I'm just like, what is this? And why can I not look away? I've been thinking of that little person. Why he was talking like that, looking up how they filmed that.
Oh yeah, it was like we had to learn his lines backwards or some.
Learn his line backwards,
stuff,
which then they played it forward, because I was like, why can't I understand like every other sentence, but not certain parts of the sentence? What? And then Laura Palmer, like, and then 25 years, and then I know there's 25 years between this and the new show.
Oh, that was like mind blowing. See, because when me and Connor watched the original series, we started watching in January 2017 because we knew the new season was coming in like May, so it was all timed so that we'd finish the show, watch the movie, just in time for the new show. And when she said, "I'll see," like I don't want to get too spoilery if people have not seen it, but there's a kind of an ominous line about "I'll see you in 25 years," and there's just and watching it in 2017 when it's about to come back, give or take that amount of time later, it's like, wait a minute, that madman somehow knew.
Yeah, well, because it's a line that he says in the next episode of A Breakfast, Cooper, is he's like, I had a dream, but I was 25 years older, and I was like, whoa, wait a minute. That's the same distance in between.
Yeah.
So, but no, Cooper definitely. He's an odd cat. I wasn't even sure he was an actual FBI agent until Miguel Ferrer showed up. Because I was like, maybe he's just an odd dude that talks into talks into his recorder.
Do you know who he's talking to in the tape recorder? Do you know that?
No. So I haven't either figured that Diane is who he's sending the tapes to and at the bureau, or it's what he calls the tape recorder. It's his friend. He's a weird dude.
No, it's not what he calls the tape recorder.
Gotcha.
What I really meant was, do you know who's ultimately going to play Diane?
No, not a clue.
Yeah, because you see her in the new season and the return.
Well, that's cool. Yeah, no.
You like the actor?
Okay. Wait, you would have told me if Chastain was on here.
No, not Chastain. It's not Chastain. Yeah, it's not a redhead. It's not a redhead.
Gotcha. Well, I'm gonna have to. I'll get there. I even told my wife, because I tried to get her to watch it, because she likes murder mystery type things, and she's like, "No, watch it. You're off this week. Like, start it." Yet, as I've been watching it with her around, she's been pulled in by Who Killed Laura Palmer in a very, watching Dateline type way.
Yeah.
So
she's probably going to be repelled at a certain point, though, when it gets proper weird. But
yeah.
The only thing I will warn you is that season 2, after 9 episodes, Lynch leaves, and it gets pretty bad for about 10 episodes.
Gotcha. Yeah. So I listened to the Bigfoot Collectors Club, and they talk a lot about how David Lynch was inspired by John Keel, and there's a lot of this ultra-terrestrial kind of events that happen that, as I can already tell through the dream sequence and Cooper being obsessed with dreams, like there's a lot of stuff in there that they talk about on the Bigfoot Collectors Club that's not Twin Peaks related. It's just, you could tell that Lynch has this, way about him. And so they did an episode about the first episode. So I listened to that, and they kind of go over what had happened and how ABC wanted it to be more of a, what was on TV at the time, right? Like, oh, we're going to wrap up this murder, then you'll do a new murder. And it was just like, no, this is going to be like a real life murder that we don't know who did it until years down the line. Maybe we'll never find out. And ABC said, became that Jason Bateman meme, like FUR. And so he left. And I do know the other guy that took it over was a writer for X-Files or something along the lines. He did something else along those lines.
Yeah. Well, what's
So,
interesting though is that Lynch does come back for the last episode of season 2,
mhm,
and there is still some stuff set up towards the end of it that is still very important to the mythology
Yeah.
that was clearly meant to be in there.
gotcha.
And then Fire Walk with Me is this weird, like, prequel movie, but it's actually super important. It became way more relevant once the new season came out, and so much of it
Okay.
became like a big part of it. But
Gotcha. But yeah, I will get there. I was telling my wife though, I go, if I do end up liking this, we're gonna have to get Showtime because it's the only place that the new season is airing. So just as long as I can watch. And how many episodes is the new one?
the new one's 18 episodes.
Okay, I could gank through that in a month, easy. So but we'll get there.
There's milestones. Episode 3 is the first time it gets proper weird, but there's milestones in my head that I cannot wait to get your reaction to throughout the whole thing.
Being that this is a 30-year-old show at this point, I'm going to try to, because I've been unspoiled. Like, I really don't know who killed Laura Palmer. I have suspicions just based off of, TV watching literacy has gotten a lot better. And from watching stuff like Lost and Breaking Bad, you can kind of see DNA as it starts to,
Oh yeah, I mean, Lost is directly like the Lost's method of like the way it built mysteries was inspired entirely. It wouldn't exist without Twin Peaks. Like,
yeah. Well, what I mean is just the way that we become smarter as television watchers, because stuff is constantly one-upping. Like, like Breaking Bad has nothing in common with Twin Peaks except for story structure, in that there's not even a central mystery. There's a central thread, and that if you're paying attention, it's not going to be a surprise. So I'm starting to see things. However, now that I do mention this, I can see how much of Twin Peaks DNA is in that first season of Riverdale. Down to the diner, the biker bad guy, kind of not bad guy, but shadowy figure in town, to the way that Jason's body was found is very similar to Laura Palmer,
and they even have Shelley in it.
Yeah, and I still can't get over that's Betty's mom, because like she's aged into a different look. I don't know if it's her hair or what. Like, I can kind of tell that's her, like, from 30 years ago, but yeah, she almost looks like a different actress, like in a good way. But yeah, there's so much of it in there that now I look back at Riverdale and go, oh, when you said it was like Twin Peaks, you weren't kidding that they were just ripping off Twin Peaks. In a teen pulp style though, instead of a soap opera.
Oh yeah, I mean obviously the deft direction and stuff is missing completely because it's not Lynch, but yeah.
So.
Oh god, episode 8 of The Return. I cannot wait. I cannot wait until
believe me, you guys will, and this is what I was getting with spoilers. I'm not going to spoil anything overtly, but you will know when I hit those milestones. Like when I saw the red room, I had to tweet, what is this?
I can't wait till Bob.
Yeah. Which so I'm familiar with Bob as who he really is, like to David Lynch, and how that came apart, and how David Lynch just kind of makes things up as he goes. And I thought that was pretty hilarious. Why that character even exists. But yeah, Dale Cooper talking over breakfast about his dream, about how Bob had to cut off his arm so he wouldn't kill anymore. And he's just nonchalant, like this is a fact.
I'm pretty sure we're talking about a different Bob.
Oh, are we?
Because I don't think in that context of that conversation you're talking about, I don't think he's talking about the Bob I'm thinking of. And people who have seen all of Twin Peaks know, like, they thought of the exact Bob I'm thinking of.
Gotcha. I'm just going off of the Bob that they talked about. In the, he was crouched. He worked on the crew, and he was crouched by a bed setting something up. And David Lynch had this vision of what he wanted in the show. So then they made that guy be this Bob character. So I just assumed it was Bob.
Maybe it is the same, but it's been a while now. It's been a few years since I watched it. So, but I don't remember him being talked about as early as the pilot.
He was talking about Dale Cooper was talking about in the dream. There was two guys, and one of them doesn't have an arm, and his name is Bob, and he had to cut off his arm. And Sheriff Truman is just sitting there listening, like, who am I working with? It's just like someone recounting their dreams. You're just like, I don't know why you're telling me this. So But that one's just fresh because I just watched that this morning.
Yeah, that may be a seed for Bob.
Yeah.
But this.
Yeah. Also, my wife has not enjoyed me after I take a drink of coffee, letting her know it's a damn fine cup of coffee. She's very over that. Which I'll put them over here, and it's not an ad or whatever. But Rootless Coffee has a coffee that is called "Damn Fine Cup of Coffee," inspired by Twin Peaks.
Hey, and there's a lot of actors to show up as well, by the way, that you'll recognize. Season 2's got Billy Zane.
Wow.
You got Heather Graham popping up. Yeah, there's a whole who's who of people.
Well, already, I didn't realize what's her name. Laura Flynn Boyle was in this, as Laura's friend, and there's another actor, and I'm drawing a blank on that I didn't realize as part of Twin Peaks. So, yeah, I mean that's cool. That's always the best part of going back and watching older TV shows and seeing some of these actors that became like much bigger names later in these smaller roles. So, that's pretty cool. Now it's gonna drive me nuts who it is, but I'll figure it out.
Yeah. But yeah, David Duchovny shows. There's a bunch, tons of actors.
Oh,
and Miguel Ferrer, of course, as well from RoboCop.
Right, which I know him, and you know, from different things. Yeah. Which that man, I didn't realize he died back in 2017 at the age of 61.
Yeah, he died like it was before the show aired, like because he's in the new season, but then he passed away before.
Yeah, he had cancer.
Yeah.
But I just in my head he's always old. He has an Arn Anderson face, where he was just born at 35. But when you do the math, this is 30 years ago. So if he was 61 then, so he would have been 66 now. He was about my age, and he looks way older.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
So seeing him pop up there also makes it feel very 90s because he was in a ton of 90s stuff. Is the actor that was from Stargate SG-1, plays the Colonel. He always plays the military dude. He's Bobby's dad.
Don Davis, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's someone who died between the old show and the new season. Because there was a few people who died from the show like around the time that was airing. Because you won't see him until the movie, but Harry Dean Stanton is in it. And he's in the new season as well, and he's like 90. He's literally 90 years old, and then he passed away like not too long afterwards.
Yeah, another one that just reminded me. He I don't know all their names yet, but he runs the garage. He's James's uncle, but he's been in a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, he's the villain in Under Siege 2.
Yeah,
and all stuff.
People Under the Stairs.
Everett McGill.
Was the villain in that.
Yeah.
So a lot of who's that type actors. Like I've seen them in something else, and then when you pull them up, you're like, oh well, yeah. So, but yeah. Also, the actress that plays the cousin, that is the same actress, right?
Oh yeah, that's Cheryl Lee. Yeah, that's
okay. I was like, wow, they did a very good job at finding someone that looks just like her.
Yeah, well, you'll notice as you watch Twin Peaks, the idea of a doppelganger is kind of a theme.
I've already noticed that in the pilot movie, it's all about double lives.
Yeah.
And 2 comes up. It's like a Harvey Dent scripted movie. The idea of 2 showing up, it happens so much that I was able to pick up on all that. But yeah, and then that episode also starts with Palmer's dad watching a soap opera where the same actress plays sisters named Jade and Emerald, which I thought was hilarious because they were almost the same exact shots from Twin Peaks, which really leans into that soap opera.
Oh yeah, I mean, hell, even the name Twin Peaks, like it's literally two of something.
And I also might have looked where they filmed this. So like if I'm ever in that neck of the woods,
so somewhere in the northwest, I assume.
Not exactly where they say they are, which is up closer to eastern Washington. But yeah, it's up outside of Seattle somewhere in a little timber town. So which is pretty cool. But yeah, it's very good through 4 episodes right now. And I do want to watch more, and I get frustrated when I can't because I have other things going on, So like yesterday, I planned fully to come home, but then I had to go meet my brother to see The Northman. So I was like, I'm not gonna have time to watch an episode and get ready and then meet him at the movie theater. So
so many good things lie ahead.
Yeah, and everyone If you guys follow me on Twitter, you will definitely be on this journey with me.
Oh, so many good things lie ahead. So let's talk about comics then, shall we?
Yeah.
And if you clicked on the timestamp to skip all the Twin Peaks talk, then welcome to the comics portion of the show.
Yeah.
So, Nightwing, issue 91, Tom Taylor writing, Geraldo Borges on the art. Here we have, I'm knocking things down.
Yeah.
Here we have continuation. KJ Beast, of course, was the cliffhanger last time. Wally and Dick, deal with this. I mean, Wally especially is the one who kind of swoops in and deals with it very quickly. But it's heartwarming again. Wally talking about how you tried to kill my friend. The idea that everyone else was even more pissed about this than the Nightwing himself is kind of thing.
We are Wally.
We are Wally.
Which I thought. Real quick, Borges did the last issue, right?
Yes.
Okay. Because the art felt a little bit different. Maybe it's that the inks on that first page are extra heavy, but it felt like it different than the last issue. But maybe it's just the inks and the colors, maybe composition. But yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely very, very heavy on the Flash suit. There's a lot of inks on that first page. But yeah, so there's a lot of fun stuff here with them, like taking KGB's phone and getting it to Oracle and doing all that stuff. I do really appreciate this. We do not like the storyline of Dick being shot because it led to Rick Grayson and all of it was very shit. But this issue does a really good job of making it feel like it's an important part of his past. Something as simple as Oracle asking Dick if he's okay, which is a really nice beat. But yeah, so they're looking into stuff, and it ends up being this mythical assassin squad, or this like person who can give an order out to any assassin in the world. Yeah,
they compare her to a sommelier of assassins that they're good at selecting the right one, and if it's big enough, they'll take it on themselves. Which I like. That's a bit of mythology.
Yeah, and
that Taylor's playing with.
Obviously targeted Dick Grayson because Blockbusters has made this call. Yep. So Dick and Wally go swishing out. Although I do love the build up to this again. We get a call back to the carry or piggyback joke, which comes right after the kids want a dog because they're playing with Bitewing, and Wally's like, if I get talked into even a goldfish, this is on you.
And it feels very this is what Taylor excels at. It feels very interpersonal. It feels like two friends talking. So yeah, him pulling him aside and is like, man, look, we're basically family, but I don't have time for pets. Because especially when you think about what's been going on in Wally's life in his own book. You're just like, yeah, no, he can't even have a goldfish. You know what, though? A turtle. I think they can handle a turtle.
Oh, maybe, yeah. Maybe a turtle. So they go off to this island in Costa Rica, where they've tracked this phone signal, so the base might be here. There's a bunch of assassins. Wally takes them out, and it's very easy. But when he speeds in, he hits a force field, sort of, And when she walks out, this assassin lady, she kind of says that. I mean, that was mainly to stop bullets and stuff. But the thought that a super speeding superhero might run into it did occur to us.
They basically are a bullet, right? And she compares it to a bug on a windshield, which I thought was a pretty good explanation because Wally's out.
Wally's out.
Did some damage.
Yeah, Dick has to deal with this on his own. Luckily, his armor is, stab-proof, as he points out, and that was something that was set up a few issues ago.
Yeah.
So the poison blade doesn't kill him. He's able to knock her out, and he wakes up Wally, and hurrah! We won. But again, what really peppers this issue is the action's solid enough, and the art's fun when it happens. But it's the little personal moments. It's Wally saying, "Hey, why aren't you Babs just officially a couple? You've got a dog together. You're practically living together.
I'll be honest. It makes me worry about their relationship because, and I feel that's what Taylor wants, so he can do the swerve of, oh no, they're meant to be together, and this is just how they, they're basically an old married couple at this point, right?
Oh, for sure.
They don't need to say it, but him bringing it up, it almost feels ominous. But again, it feels like friends talking throughout. Even when they go to do the piggyback, or he goes, you've been to the future, and you can't tell me none of the other Flashes have figured out a better way to do this. It just.
And then you turn the page and he's just got him on his back. Yeah.
Yeah. So I love all of that like conversation between them. It makes them feel like they've been around forever. And especially when you think back to Rebirth, we were missing these two. And it's almost like Taylor's been like, this is why people love these characters, especially their relationship here. And it just feels gratifying.
Yeah, so basically they've got control of her computer system now that they're inside, and Wally's going to like sort of take it apart, but Dick's like, no, we can use this, and he effectively puts out a bunch of hits that are all trapped. So you see like this like montage of panels where all these assassins are coming after what look like innocent civilians, but then Shazam, which is kind of like Shazam. I was going for Tada, but I said Shazam, and then I was like, where did that come from? Anyway, so John's there at one of them, and then the other ones are all Teen Titan members. Starfire, Donna Troy, so on. Like basically, it's like no, we're going to lure them all in, and they end up arresting and apprehending like 20 plus of the world's most deadly assassins. So
they kind of take out this ring from just carelessness on the assassin's part, which I accept, because the whole way they get the phone from KG Beast, and they take off his mask to use the face recognition to unlock the phone, and it's really funny how technology has undone this criminal ring.
And even before that, the GPS, like the last location they went to, that's where the bomb is. Wally, do you want to run off and deal with it quickly?
Yeah, it was all very simple stuff, and I appreciate Taylor for structuring that way, where it doesn't, it's not the typical superhero. Oh, we got to go find the bomb.
And what's nice about it as well is that both examples it's Dick that thinks of these things. So there's that detective side of him, that he's gotten from Bats coming through, which is nice. The final page of the book is Blockbuster and Lady Shiva, and Shiva's like, well, you want me to kill Dick Grayson? Look, they just took down this entire ring. Dick Grayson, for whatever reason, and they don't know why, obviously, but Dick Grayson is he's got friends in high places, meaning like all the superheroes. So at this point, no one is taking this job. No one wants to be the assassin who goes after Dick Grayson, because clearly it's a stupid thing to do. And the final point of the issue, and what this whole issue is building up to, is the sentence: if you want Dick Grayson dead, Blockbuster, you're going to have to do it yourself. And that is a great point to leave on. It's like, okay, it makes sense he would send after everyone, and we've had like a whole arc of like people coming after Dick. We had that great, one big giant panel issue. We've had the assassination attempt with the Teen Titans showing up. We've had these two last issues with Wally, and now we're at the point where it's like, no, the boiling point this was always going to reach is that Blockbuster himself is going to have to make an attempt. He's going to have to come after it. It's going to be more personal. It's going to have to be more one-on-one, and that makes sense because all this stuff has been fun and all of it makes sense. But ultimately, the more personal it is, the higher the stakes feel. So, feels like a big deal.
See, and we always talk about how this feels like a Daredevil story, but with like smiles and light. And just that end, I was just getting big Kingpin vibes from Blockbuster.
Oh, Blockbuster's totally Kingpin in the context of this, yeah.
And so, this is like someone telling Fisk, you want Daredevil dead, you're going to have to do it yourself. And it just, that hits and it works because it's such a, not a trope. I'm trying to think of a better term for that. It's just in superhero comics. The guy that didn't want to get their hands dirty, the villain, ultimately has to, and we're pretty sure it's going to lead to his downfall.
Oh, for sure. And this last panel, the heavy inks actually do help at the mood a lot, because it makes sense that he's got all these shadows on his face and he's looking very menacing. So
also, Shiva brings up that two of the assassins had their hearts removed, which is a nice reminder. Heartless is still out there, operating. Yeah,
which obviously is, we'll get to that separately from this Blockbuster threat, but it's interesting that he got to a couple of them himself. Yep. So, it's interesting. Again, reminder, as you say. Yep. So, I had a lot of fun with this issue. I think, obviously, the art's not as good as Redondo, and that's something that we said about the last issue as well, but it's still pretty solid. Like, it's not bad art by any means. It fits the tone of the book appropriately enough. But it's all the little personal moments. It's Wally and Dick's friendship. It's Babs checking if Dick's okay, because KG Beast is kind of like maybe a sore subject. Like, encounter him. trigger
could be a mental trigger for him, right? Like, well, and just Wally using being almost the voice of us, for lack of a better term, of, we were upset because you hurt our friend. I just like that. And again, Taylor keeps showing us how Dick has this cushion of friends and people who love him around him. Like seeing John show up in that, not just after the crossover we just had, but like that we know that Clark kind of pulled him aside and said, "Hey, watch out for my boy," and to see him showing up to help Dick, it's it builds to that. It adds to that cushion of people.
I mean, it's something we've said since the start of this run, is that Taylor understands the appeal of Dick Grayson and why fans like him, and everything is playing to those strengths. It never feels like it's ignoring them or it doesn't understand them. But it's writing a good enough story and is giving his stake, so it doesn't just feel like pandering either. So there's a healthy balance there, which you want. So that's why he's so good. But what are you rating Nightwing?
I'm giving this one an 8.5.
Yeah. I think I would agree with 8.5. Yeah, that was a really good issue.
Maybe with Redondo, it could get that extra point just because we love Redondo so much.
I love what it builds up to. I love the ending with Blockbuster. It's the perfect. Okay, we're getting to Act 3 of this arc. If this is the Nightwing must die or Grayson must die arc, then this is the natural getting into Act 3 of it. So, really cool stuff. The Flash 781. Jeremy Adams writing with Fernando Passarin on the art. This is a Wally and Wallace story, where Wallace is taking a mass test with his fellow sort of weird group of Teen Titans.
What's left of Titans Tower after that event we didn't read?
They're in like some sort of abandoned old school building or something. Basically, I don't know if this is something that's happened before or if this is something that this book's come up with, but this idea that Wally calls Wallace Ace because it's the difference in the name is the Ace.
I have not. So granted, Wally just has taken this book over. I don't remember him ever calling him Ace, and I was having issues with it at first because it feels so forced. But the longer it goes and the more irritated you see Wallace get with it,
it worked in the long run.
In the long run. Because the first, I almost, when it first started, I almost went to Twitter and was like, all right, Wally calling him Ace just doesn't work. And then I was like, wait, read the whole book first. And then when we get to that, and every time Wallace is like, no, that's not my name. He's like, yeah, sure, whatever, Ace. It really made Wally feel like this try-hard uncle that just wants to be cool,
Yeah, and that's very much what this is he's trying to be there for Wallace and sort of show him that he's part of a Flash family. Because Wallace, of course, has been in a bit of a grouchy mood ever since the later part of Williamson's Flash run, and this is very much Wally trying to reach out, make him feel included, take him on his patrol. I kind of love at the ending, it kind of builds up to saying, hey, I kind of had a date night with Linda, can you babysit? And it makes sense that we need a speedster to be a babysitter because, given the kids' powers now. And
Irie and Jay, those two.
It just makes sense. Trouble. But I love that it built up to that. But yeah, this is just like, he tells a story about how he used to go on patrol with Barry, but Barry would only take him for the bare minimum just to make him feel like he was doing something. And then like, no, okay, you're off home now, we're safe. I'm going to go off and be the proper Flash now. And then Wally started sneaking out and going to help just various things when he could. He'd run all over the world and help with muggers. And there's like a montage. It's almost like that scene, that montage in the first Superman movie where he's getting the cat burglar and then the other villain over here. And it's just like going around and helping various situations. But there's some fun panels of them racing through like deserts and canyons and over archways and things like that. And he takes them to Amsterdam, I think it is. No, sorry, Argentina. Argentina. Yeah, getting my countries mixed up. Because he wants them to try this ice cream because the place is shutting down soon, and he has to try this before it goes. Yep. Which leads to one of the most interesting editor's notes I've seen in some quite time. So some people here call him Flushman. They don't call him the Flash. Some of the Argentinians come up and call him Flushman. And the editor's note just says, "Internet search Flushman Argentina, thank me later." And I'm like, all right, that's a bold move, but you've made me too curious, so now I'm going to search it and see what comes up.
Yep.
So for anyone who didn't actually bother searching this, if you're just listening to the podcast and wondering what Flushman is, basically when the Flash was originally a thing, or at some point in his history, there was a bit of a copyright issue in Argentina. They weren't really allowed to call him the Flash, so DC in Argentina called him Flushman. That was like his Argentinian nickname, because just to get around the legal. And I'm sure that's something that's not an issue anymore, but
Yeah,
this is where it comes from. So
there are some great covers of Flash covers that we recognize.
Yeah,
with Flushman on them.
which
If you care to look.
don't make. I mean, admittedly, maybe to in Argentina, the word flush doesn't conjure up the image of a toilet seat to them.
Yeah.
So it's not as silly to them, but to us, it's pretty silly. But it's really funny that this has been made kind of in continuity now, where no, people in Argentina, because that's why this ice cream place is here, right? That's why he set it here, because he wanted to put this joke in. And that's cool, that's fine. But
and I also like the fact that when you have super speed, right, you can find the best food in the world. And be there real quick. So of course the best ice cream, is in Argentina, Tawali at least.
Yeah, because later on I think they're in Chicago, and it's that's where he gets the pizza from, because that's where and of course, that's debatable. The war between Chicago and New York, as far as who's got the best pizza, is an ongoing thing. But that's
Here's the thing: Wally's from the Midwest, so of course he would be more keen to Chicago pizza than New York pizza.
Yeah.
He's wrong, but hey.
See, everyone's got an opinion on this. Now, admittedly, I have never had the privilege of a deep dish Chicago pizza. I've never had one. They're not really readily available here. So
as I was telling my brother, we went to a hockey game on Monday, and I got a pizza. It's stadium pizza, right? It's a little bit overpriced, but you could take the risk with stadium pizza, because at the end of the day, most pizza's pretty good. And so if you're making me choose between New York and Chicago, I'm going to pick New York, but I'm not going to turn down Chicago pizza if that's all they have. Pizza's pizza. So, and as he learned, because he got some kind of weird taco dish or burrito dish that he's like, yeah, maybe stadiums aren't the place for burritos. And I was like, that's why you go with pizza, my guy. But yeah, so, but yeah, no, man, if I had superpowers, if I had super speed, I'd be going all different places to eat.
It's a joke in the I think it's the pilot of Lois and Clark, where he says, "I'll go pick us up some Chinese food," and you see him just swishing around to China to get authentic Chinese food.
Judging from what you've told me, I have super speed and I need Chinese food. I'm going to Scotland. So.
Oh sure.
Yeah.
Chinese food in Scotland's pretty good. I never thought it was. I never assumed it was any different from American Chinese food until I heard it mentioned in the Buffy comic, and I'm like, wait, someone who's tried both wrote that. And they're saying that for a reason, so I'm curious.
I think it has something to do with the grease. Your guys' grease is probably better quality than our grease.
Well, I mean, your guys' soft drinks suck. Your Coke is disgusting.
Well, thanks to the pandemic virus that I received back in October, all soda tastes wrong to me now. So I'm gonna have to take your word for it.
Because it's the corn, the fructose corn syrup or something.
Right. Instead of just sugar, which we can get. There's a bottling plant in Mexico that you can still get sugar Coke from Mexico. You have to know where to look for it, and it does taste different. You can't look and say that they're the exact same, because they're not. So you're probably onto something there.
Yeah, I was baffled.
Yeah.
So regular chocolate, Chinese food, and bizarrely something that should be the same everywhere, Coca-Cola, all taste worse than the US.
That's joke's on us.
Yeah, seriously, eat a bite of a bar of Hershey's chocolate, then bite into a Galaxy bar, and just tell me,
I got the hankering for a honeycomb bar the other day, just based off of having it once.
I mean, like a crunchy or what?
Yeah, I forget what the name of it was, but it was one of those honeycomb ones that has chocolate over it. So it's not quite a Butterfinger, but the consistency is kind of the same. But yeah, it was the chocolate, the honeycomb, all this. I got it at a British store in Ventura. So good. The candy is just better. I'll fight most people on that.
I mean, I really like Butterfingers, and I like some of the Reese's stuff, but like the raw's not the right word because chocolate's not raw, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like the
milk chocolate.
the regular chocolate on its own is far superior.
It's too chalky. You need everything else to do the heavy lifting. But yeah, just like an even an Aero bar, which is just air in chocolate, tastes better. So, you know.
Yeah. Anyway, so go back to the Flash here. We have this heart to heart on top of this tall building where Wallace is really upset about everything. But he talks him into it by telling him about his own experiences and how he discovered and sort of proved to Barry that he should be more involved in the Flash activities. Convinces Wallace to come on his patrol with him and says, "Hey, I need to know that someone else can cover it when I need to take a day off." So he takes him around, takes him to Scataris, you know,
center of the Earth.
Yeah, and there's a nice little bit here, which is this was like a little funny bit to me, but it was basically there's these like weird like murder domes that keep getting built, and Wally doesn't destroy them. He just like sort of takes enough little bits out of it every time, and the reason why he doesn't try to stop whoever's doing it because he figures, well, if they keep spending all their time and money on building these over and over again, then they're not doing other things. So I might as well just keep them busy doing this. So I was like, there's a devious logic to that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they stop some villains on a speedboat, and that's a fun couple of panels. Yeah,
they're you remind me. I read this early in the week. Yeah. They're the Legion of Doom domes. So like the ones that we saw during the Justice League by Snyder, you know, they look like the old cartoon that they keep just sprouting up. And so yeah, those are the ones. Because when you started saying murder domes, I was like,
I forgot what he called it. A Dome of Doom. That's what the actual.
So I had to go back to it, and then it clicked when I saw it sitting there. Yeah.
Yeah. So the end of the issue is Wally asking Wallace to babysit him, trying to get out of it, but then there's an explosion, and Girder comes out of a bank with wads of cash, and it's like, okay, we're going to be Flashes, and they're both in costume. So it's kind of it's a very happy kind of bonding issue. It's kind of nice to have Wally and Wallace bond a little bit because by their very nature, Wally was taken away and Wallace was put in to kind of replace him. So it's kind of nice. This is like, you know, like no, we can coexist. We can the fans should know that we are going to have a friendship. We're going to have a history together. We're going to work together. There's even a reference in here implying that in the timeline currently that they do remember growing up where Wally was like the older teenager and like Wallace was maybe like 10 or something because he mentions playing hide and seek with him when he was a kid. But yeah, so that was a nice little time. Nothing spectacular or like showy, but
like it's just nice. Like again, Adam seems to get Wally, and that's why I got upset about him calling him Ace. But then as the issue kept going, and how Wally's just trying too hard to get Wallace, to listen to him, and it's just I guess part of Wally's charm that eventually he just wears him down enough. And I think that's a pretty good understanding of this character, which I shouldn't be surprised with because since I came back and I'm enjoying, Adam's Flash run for the most part. I'm curious to see where this goes now with we still have that unresolved, Linda ending up with the speed powers and, but this is a nice little break to reestablish Wallace.
And there is like a brief, I wouldn't even say a reference, but there's a little moment where Wally says, "I'm with Linda's." So he sort of trails off, but there's like a little moment where he's saying, "Oh, the kids are all this handful," and then with Linda, what's going on with her? So there's kind of like just a little tease that like he is aware of something that I'm assuming we'll get back to. But it says next time Iron Heights, so I wonder if we're just sort of going to. Because it doesn't necessarily feel like we have to deal with Girder. It just kind of feels like an issue ending, like this is who they can beat together, kind of thing off panel. But maybe they're going to sort of like start the next issue with them like dropping off at Iron Heights, and that'll lead to whatever's
going on. Because there's always there's only one place worse in the DC universe to hold criminals than Arkham Asylum, or than Iron Heights, and that's Arkham Asylum. Iron Heights has a turnover rate. So I'm sure there's strange things afoot going on there.
Yeah, Belle Reeves not that much better though. I'm not.
No, but Belle Reeves has it built in because that's how you join the Suicide Squad. Is you get sent to Belle Reeve. So yeah, but it's good. the Flash storytelling. Like I'm happy to have it back, and it doesn't feel like it's like I'm glad that we didn't have to check out that crossover. This just picks up.
Oh, for
Like,
sure, yeah.
like there's nothing like go back and see. There's none of that. Like I'm just assuming that seeing those covers, Titan Tower got destroyed, and that's why this group of Titans is still doing school, which I think is cool. Because you kind of need a place for those young heroes. So it is doing a little bit of like, continuity building, I guess you could say, while not addressing it at all, which is that's quite a skill.
Yeah, no. It's a nice. I think Wallace needed this more than anything,
Mm-hmm.
just to and now it's going to be nice when he pops up in and like it is someone that Wally can count on, especially if Barry's going to be away for a while still.
Yeah, that's what always works with the Flash too, right? Is the family. And,
oh yeah, in
like,
the same ways that we were enjoying that Dick's building a relationship with John, that's kind of sweet. It's nice to have a similar thing here with Wally and Moss.
Yeah, it's why I've always been more akin to, these type of books at DC, right? Because of you have those legacy characters. Like I've always read a Teen Titans book for the most part because of those young characters and their interpersonal between them, and when Nightwing would show up and he's like a mentor to this younger group, and then for a while that was gone. So it's nice to see it's building back up, like that web of characters, that we all know, that like seeing Starfire pop up in Nightwing, right? And it's just you just accept it. It's not like a huge moment. It's just someone that's there. Just like here, if Jay Garrick or Max Mercury or someone like that had showed up, you're just like, oh yeah, cool. That's a Flash book. Of course they do. And
Yeah.
I'm liking this era for that, especially with these two books that we've already talked about.
Yeah, I do love though that you said I've always read Teen Titans mostly, and I'm like, except for the vast majority of time this show's existed.
Yeah, but I do try, right? It's not like we haven't.
Oh yeah, every time they start a new one, we give it a try and we hope for the best. But
Young Justice I tried too, and it's just Robin. I feel that's why I love Robin so much, is because there's that young hero web that's being built there too with Damian, and because you like Wallace is a contemporary of Damian more than anybody, so if he showed up in that Robin book at some point, you wouldn't be surprised.
No, not at all.
So yeah.
All right, what are you giving a Flash 781?
I think it's 7.5.
Yeah, I think I'll probably just go with the flat 7, but it was good. It was a good 7. I think it's a good little consistent run thus far. So happy enough. There you go. Batman Superman World's Finest issue 2. Mark Waid writing with Dan Mora on the art. So we ended last issue. Superman was infected with the red kryptonite and was taken to the Doom Patrol's mansion. For Niles Calder to try and work his magic, as it were. And I think the first issue had this weird thing where, because the first chunk of it was something we'd already read and it was oversized because of that. I mean, at least you still got a full issue's worth after that chunk.
Yeah.
But it made it kind of this weird read. This issue, like, but barring just like I guess the little asterisks that Mark Waid likes to just go ridiculous with some of the powers, and we'll talk about those. Other than that, I just kind of loved this and loved how kind of fun and pulpy it was. And like, I don't necessarily want in continuity like Dick and Kara to have like some sort of slightly romantic history, but it was really funny in this issue. Like, see when she shows up and you get the cold effect on the speech bubbles when they're like Robin, Supergirl. It's like, I'm already entertained.
Yep. Well, and it does feel like this is an alternate Earth. Right? Like, this is the world's finest Earth, if you will. Like, it's golden or Silver Age adjacent,
Yeah, it's definitely it's Silver Age adjacent with a little bit of like, just like little sprinkles of like things from continuity. But yeah, you've got they're working on Superman. Eventually, it's Negative Man going into Superman's body, and we see there's a great visual. It's almost like Fantastic Voyage, but with Negative Man's spirit like going through the body.
Yeah, so Calder tries to do some operation on Superman to make sure that like the radiation hasn't got to his heart, and then he realizes like it doesn't matter if it's green kryptonite or red kryptonite, whatever. it's going to be Superman's death unless they can, get all this radiation out. And they have to basically, because Negative Man, he absorbs radiation. Is that right? That they, he has to get into Superman's
it
body.
varies a bit, but aye, for the sake of this, sure.
Yeah, that he has to get in there and absorb all that red K radiation, which I do like. And just like Mark Waid just having fun, right? And then Dan Mora getting to draw all these different characters. It's just super, super cool. Like,
yeah,
I'm not that familiar with the Doom Patrol, but seeing Dan Mora draw Robot Man,
so sure,
I think is really cool.
Yeah, I mean, I've come to love those Doom Patrol characters. Between what I've read of Grant Morrison's run and the couple of seasons of the show I've watched, I've come to really kind of love a lot of Doom Patrol, and like seeing those characters, even seeing just a quick flash of like Mongol fighting Batman, Superman, and that little beat. Which what was funny is that it took me a second to even recognize him because I'm so used to now the more modern
new.
Yeah, because this is like the pulpy, vibrant colors, cartoony Mongol, which makes sense.
Yeah, that is from A Man Who Has Everything, which is my favorite Superman story of all time. So of course, Mark Waid's going to pull from that, right? And I do also love the art shifts that Mora does, right? So we get that one there where it seems more of that era, the heavier, bulkier lines. It's not as clean and crisp. It's a little bit flat. And then when we get to them retelling the origin of the villain, it becomes more fantastical, almost like a relief type painting or like a tapestry, which is it's really cool. But yeah, seeing that version of Mongol versus the the one that we have now, whatever, Mongol 243, whatever one he is.
Mongol who is.
Yeah. So, but yeah, no, just the Doom Patrol stuff. And when Batman he sneaks up on Robin and who was it?
Yeah.
And they both jump. I thought that was a real fun moment.
Well, I actually really like the end of it where Batman smiles because he's happy Clark's okay.
Yeah.
And it's like, is Batman smiling? It happens. And you think we are spooky.
Yeah. It's real good.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they find out that the person behind this is someone they're calling the devil, Necha, which I'd look up how to say that.
Because I was going to just say Neza, but
yeah, so I looked up how to say it, and it is it's a mythological figure from Chinese folklore, which I'm wondering, seeing the Monkey King being drawn in there, I'm wondering if this is a way to get the Monkey Prince stuff, in mainline DC, which would be super cool because there's always room for those type of characters, especially how we end up at the end of this with Billy involved.
Yeah, we should talk about this story that's told. It's only a couple of pages, but it's basically this emperor, this king, whoever, lost his son in battle and was so devastated that he tried to then go around every shaman and magic person to try and figure out, is there a way to resurrect my son? And he found nothing, and he spent his entire fortune, because he was filthy rich, but he ended up spending all of it to the point where he ended up doing chores for a magician in the hopes, or a wizard maybe is a better term, in the hopes of just like getting the favor of like some way to bring his son back. And this magic man does give him this liquid to pour over his son's body, and the dark twist of the whole story is that he resurrects his son. It's been like 10 years since the son died, and the son is disgusted of what his father's become in order to bring him back. It's like, no, we were, you're a pauper. We were important. We were at the top.
Yeah.
We were we were respected. And then decapitates his father, and then he goes on to become this, this Neza character with the horns and all the rest. So there's a lot of mythology that kind of seeping into this, really painting him as a big bad. It's all good fun stuff. Then they talk about a team of heroes that fought him.
The House of Qi, which was formed by the followers of his father, right? Because his father was Qi, Li Jing. So they rise up to oppose him.
Yeah, so they want to figure out, exactly how to fight this guy. So that they're going in, and we see that this Nez is going after other heroes. He's going after the Flash, going after Wonder Woman, and it mentions a boy in Philadelphia. And for a second, I was like, I don't know who this is. Who's it be? Obviously, it made much sense when they actually got to him later, and it's Billy Batson.
Yeah.
But the story splits in two. So Batman and Superman are going to go off and help this kid and like deal with stuff on Earth. But they're sending Robin with Supergirl. And this is one of the weird things where they've kind of added some, or I don't know if it's necessarily added, but like obviously we're super familiar with the Flashes running back in time, and that's something they really have with them. But in this issue, Supergirl like flies back in time as well. Like she breaks the barrier, and they go into the past because they want to speak to this team of heroes and get advice. Obviously, they see Robin holding this sword that belongs to the bad guy, and they're like, "Wait, you work for the devil, so we're going to fight you." And they're like, "Shit!" But that's kind of their plot line that they go on. But there's a lot of fun bickering between them, which honestly was pretty entertaining.
Yeah, they talk about something that had happened between them, and you're only getting you're not meant to get the full story.
You're getting fragments.
Yeah,
but it's also there's a reference here because this was a debate last issue about the Robin's outfit and if it being Dick and he's wearing the stuff that's more Tim like, and she even says, "Hey, like the pants," and he's like, "I'm trying them out."
Yeah.
So there is kind of in there that it is Dick because it does sound like Dick, to be fair.
It does,
and it always.
Well,
did.
that was the whole big thing is that maybe Mora just wanted to draw the staff.
Yeah.
Who knows? But yeah, no, that their whole thing, and her breaking the space barrier, I thought maybe that had to do something with the Doom Patrol, them knowing where this crack,
maybe because they bring the sword.
Not clear.
They bring the sword with them, so maybe the sword's got something to do with it. But it did kind of feel the other one was so when they're fighting Felix Faust, and Superman realizes, hey, he can still hear us, and he sort of whistles at a frequency to give him vertigo. I was like, this is not as ridiculous or as far-fetched as what Supergirl did, but it was still kind of one of those things where I never hear this get brought up with Superman. I'm not a big
No, I mean, but the way they couch it makes sense with infrasound, which is sound that you can feel but not hear. Because it's at such a level. I mean, I just feel again, this is Mark Waid.
I'll roll with it. It's not a big deal, but it's it's not. If I was writing a Superman story, I wouldn't be putting this in there.
No, but again, I feel like Mark Waid's Silver Agey.
Yeah. Which again, it fits maybe the vibe that he's going for, so it's fine. You go with it. Because one of the things I also don't like I'm fine with Clark having, obviously he's got X-ray vision. I don't mind microscopic vision in this, at least to the extent where he can look really far away and zoom in, if that makes sense. Yeah. I'm not so big that when he can literally just sort of look at you in an atomic structure level and tell you that you're your skin cells have got something. I was like, no, that's too far. You went too far with the power there.
No, there's that, and then there's the super intellect thing where he's actually a genius, and I kind of like the idea that he's smart in the way that a journalist is smart, but he's not like Batman because there's even that joke about what you're seeing is two people that are used to being the smartest guys in the room, as he's telling that to Robin. And I feel Superman's smart, but he doesn't, not in the same way that Batman is.
It's because Bruce and Niles keep trying to one up each other and how much they know about all this myth stuff. Yeah. No, I prefer that. Yeah, obviously he's a smart guy, but I'm not necessarily big on these super and I don't want it to be a power. I just want it to be no. He's a bright guy who learns things. That's right. Fine.
It's akin to when the Flash goes to read up on a subject, and because of the super speed, he can absorb it for that moment and know what to do. But unless he's practicing it, it's not like he's going to remember. I remember that being a thing in John's Teen Titans with Bart, is that when he was laid up with the broken leg, he just started reading a whole bunch of books, so he could know up on a bunch of different things. So I do like that, but it's not that super smart speed is one of the Flash's go-to things all the time. Yeah.
So the big thing here is that so Felix is after Billy. Batman and Superman don't know this is Shazam, right? They don't know it's Captain Marvel that they're dealing with here. But he's done something to him where his mouth is sealed shut, so he can't say Shazam. He can't transform. So obviously we know that if his mouth gets fixed, he can be a big help here. So there's a nice little play here where it never happens this issue, but I suspect we're going to get a big moment in next issue or something where he finally gets to say Shazam, and it's like, oh shit, now we have someone who's Superman level of powers can help. But, obviously the art's fantastic. Like there's so many expressive little moments. Something as simple as Supergirl flying with Robin and Dick just having his arms folded in a huff, the way he's been held, is just really funny. Or even like, as much as I don't necessarily like the whistling thing, like the panel where it's the close up of the actual whistling does look really good. Like it's drawn exceptionally.
Yeah, Mora's so good at layouts. So like just the way that right above that where he's whistling, the way that Superman and Batman are in separate panels, but it's the same shot.
Yeah.
Right. It moves your eye with their, like, whoever's doing his lettering and stuff. He must work really well with them.
It's obviously, we compare it to film a lot because it's easy to talk about movie shots and the way things are edited and stuff. But what's interesting here is you don't have camera moves in comics, but separating one panel, which is really one image, but into two, is a way to tell you how to move your eyes. So it kind of is emulating a camera pan. Like, you're effectively giving the same feeling to the audience, to the reader/viewer, but through a different technique because it's a different medium. And it's funny to that's why it's so interesting to compare them, because ultimately the art form and the goals that it's seeking to achieve are the same. It's just that the techniques and the tools are different, and that's fascinating to me.
Well, and that's why, like, when you hear like a comic is cinematic, right?
Oh yeah,
that's why that has meaning, and then other times you get some stuff where you're just like, oh, it works, but you don't get that same feeling. Here you get that feeling, just like even I'm looking at the Supergirl and Robin page, and just the way that it is laid out, and this also could be Waid too with his direction in the script. But it's just everything is, what you learn in film school with shot composition, and it's a really smart way to think about comics. It makes for an effortless read.
Every form of storytelling, every medium of storytelling, is unique and has its own things, but a lot of the thinking skills are, transferable between them. There's a reason for that, because the fundamentals ultimately all come back to the same stuff. So, the end of the issue is just that Felix doesn't need his wand anymore. He's been given like greater power by the devil, Ezra, and the end of the issue is that he seemingly put Superman, Batman, and Billy Batson in hell. They're surrounded by monsters and fire, and that's where we end up. And this is one of these things where, like, this might just feel like a throwaway, silly thing in some if it was like a regular series, but because this entire thing's meant to be this pulpy Silver Age kind of like feeling to it, this just kind of brought a smile to my face. So
it really feels like the Superman and Batman I started collecting way back in like 2004. That was done by Loeb, where there are these stories that, they're using concepts that we're all familiar with from the mainline DC, but they kind of feel like they're off to their own. But, that's like how he brought Supergirl back, right? And that Michael Turner. And eventually she got her own book, but at that time it didn't feel like, Supergirl was going to exist outside of Superman, Batman. And that's how this kind of feels too. But I'm relieved because if this is just going to be its own little corner, that's fine, Yeah.
I really like it. I've been, I don't know, it's scratching an itch that no other book's scratching, I guess, is the best way to put it. So, what are you giving World's Finest issue to?
I'm giving this an 8.5.
I will concur with the 8.5. I will concur.
Yes.
So there you go. Batman the Night, issue 4, Chip Zdarsky, writing with Carmine D. Giandomenico on the art. So this, obviously it's hard not to think of Batman Begins a little bit at the start of this, because it's, Bruce climbing the mountain to get to the dojo.
Yep.
But basically he gets beat up a lot by various different like students that are training here, and then eventually one day he's let in, and he befriends a fellow student who, like, so Bruce gives a fake name. He keeps calling himself Jack, and this guy goes by Anatoly. But the entire time I'm thinking, who is this asshole? Like, he is someone. And I didn't get it by the end of the issue, and maybe it's blatantly obvious, and I'm being an idiot, but I don't know who it is, and it's bugging me.
Whoever it is, it's untrustworthy, and it made me think Ghostmaker. That's just because I don't like Ghostmaker.
Unless like Zdarsky really wants to tie it into recent continuity,
yeah,
it can't be, right?
No, I feel like this is just a character that we see that is he's meant to represent Bruce's trust and how quick Bruce is to trust people that he maybe shouldn't. You know, because by the time we see at the end, this person has their own goals.
At the very least, I don't know if this has his own goals. He probably does, but at the very least, he's manipulative because when Bruce goes to leave because he doesn't want to learn how to kill someone because that's the lesson that they're going to teach. Like a bunch of the shouldn't show up and fight him. The newer ones who are getting the carte blanche to come in because the expert, the sensei, he is basically, for protection, for allowing him to operate, he has to train a batch of students for whoever like his benefactor is. So whatever like mob boss or head of the, whether it be Yakuza or whatever, the triads. It's a Japanese sensei, but it mentions that he's on the border of China and Korea.
So he was kicked out of Japan for teaching the deathly arts.
Yes.
And so this is where he went. I kept thinking they were referring to Roz. Because
the benefactor, yeah. Oh, yeah, I mean, it makes sense. These could be League of Shadows / assassin / whatever.
Yeah, and this guy made me think of the sensei, which is the character.
Yeah, this group that's being trained could be like people that Raz wants trained for. Yeah,
right.
But anyway, what I was getting to is at the end, this quote unquote friend, we find out he's the one who told them to go after Bruce when he was leaving. And it's all a play so that he could come in and help Bruce, so that Bruce would want him to go with him. Because he asked him at first, like when he says he's leaving, like, let me go with you, let us go on this journey, because you've got this list of names to learn from that you got from Descartes. Let's go and train from them together. And Bruce is like, nah, this is my own journey, I can't do it on my own. But then when he gets help, and it's hard not to see, like, yeah, like obviously there's some other parts of this which do kind of like track, like because one day he's going to have a Robin, one day he's going to have allies, and he's going to have these like partners that he fights with, but that's not until later. But yeah, this guy is very untrustworthy. Yeah, I feel like it is going to turn out to be someone. I think the idea that Bruce is using this fake name of Jack is definitely signaling to us that this other guy is also using a fake name, and we don't know who it is yet. So
for sure,
I just
I really like this episode. This issue too, because it reminded me of the stuff that I love in Iron Fist, right? Him climbing up the mountain and getting the piss just beat out of him, but him not, turning back, which is what makes him more Batman than Iron Fist, right? But just that whole setting of him coming to train on this high mountain and him having to earn it, I love that, and it shows. This is one of the aspects of Bruce that I like, is that he won't stay down. Right.
Yeah.
He's gonna keep coming. It's that drive that makes him Batman. So this guy is Master Kirigi, and he's the one that trained Bronze Tiger.
Okay.
So yeah, he's created by Christopher Priest and appearing in Batman 431. And his first appearance was in Detective Comics 996.
Wait, Christopher Priest has been writing comics long enough to go back to Batman 400 something?
431, yeah.
Damn.
Let's see what that was. Christopher Priest and Jim Aparo creation. And that was from 1989. So yeah.
Okay. Good year.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. Most important person on the planet was born that year.
You're right. Taylor Swift was born that year.
Was she?
Wait, she's not here to hear it. Dang it.
Wait, is that just something you say to get into the good books?
Oh, big time.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, especially after watching Prisoners, it'd be like, man, Jake Gyllenhaal's a hell of an actor when he wants to be. But yeah. Anyway. But yeah. So this character, I feel like he's taking the spot of the Sensei, because when I looked up the Sensei, it's a little bit like, this is definitely 60s comics. Not for the better. But yeah, I do feel like there are, League of Shadows, League of Assassins vibes going, which is good, because that's one of my favorite parts of Bruce's journey, as like where he runs into Roz and he thinks like Roz is this person that has everything figured out, but or does he? So and I'm wondering if this guy that befriends him with the befriends Jack. I wonder if he's someone that works with the League and he sees the potential, and he's going to take him there or
Maybe
whatever. But there's
I don't
definitely
know.
more to him because he is charismatic. He's charismatic in the ways that Bruce isn't. But he also, now that I'm looking back over at the art, he has the Roz hairline with the gray in the back.
Mm.
So now that I'm thinking that it's Roz exactly, but maybe it's someone to do with him. But
Yeah, I mean, this was a quick read.
yeah.
Because a lot of the early stuff, there's a good like 6-7 pages at the start that is just like there's no very little dialogue. It's just fighting in the snow. There's a big fight scene at the end, so it is a fairly quick, brisk read. This one, which is a very big contrast to, I'd say, the first like 2 issues, which were very wordy and did take a long time to read. So I appreciate the change of pace. I'm enjoying this as kind of just an interesting take on like Bruce's traveling, but as he becomes Batman. But
yeah, I'm kind of hoping this becomes Batman's birthright, right? So then you could have, if you want like these proto origin stories for those characters, right? You have Superman birthright, and then you'd have Batman the Knight. I also like that they kind of rhyme, which I just now realized.
Yeah, but Birthright actually heavily goes into like post becoming Superman though. It's like his entire first interaction and like winning over the people and like
Yeah,
Lex
I
is a
know.
villain. Like so that's like a
But
proper
what's-
origin story. Whereas this, I don't know how much this is actually going to like, go into like the start of his being Batman.
Well, that's why I said this one's a proto origin, right? That will end with him coming back to Gotham, I think. And then we'll go into there because it's. I mean, you don't need to rehash year one. How many times have we done that? Over the course
of course not.
Like I don't need to see yes, Father, I'll become the Bat at the end of this. I hope it's just him getting off the plane. Like you brought it begins at the beginning.
Yeah.
How Bruce gets off the plane to Alfred. And he's like, "Oh, we're so glad to see you."
Gets on the plane, you mean?
Yeah, that's what I meant. Gets on the plane. I'm conflating that with Iron Man, where he gets off the plane and orders a cheeseburger.
Yes. Well, they have to advertise Burger King, you see. So they
yes,
have to get Burger King. Yeah. All right. What are you giving Batman the Night?
I'll give this one an 8.
Okay. I think I'll probably go more with 7.5. I think. Yeah. It's pretty solid though. It is pretty solid. It does still feel a little like there's just something about this series that is pretty solid, but just doesn't quite feel important. And that's like a really weird distinction because like, why does anything that's not like the currently ongoing story feel important? Because many do. It's hard to tell you, but there's just something about it just feels a little bit like, oh, this is a nice thing that exists, but it's not like, it was like the last thing I read this week.
I just like that it's a nice light read. This one I was happy to see all of the Giandomenico fight scenes. So it's a nice break in a lot of stuff. And this was a book that I didn't really want to read, and now thanks to Zdarsky, I get excited for Batman, and I hate myself for it.
I don't get me wrong, like I'm fully anticipating his actual Batman run, but yeah, I would describe this series as a very nice, pleasant thing that is, if you want another book, if you fancy it, give it a go, but it's not necessarily like a must read either. So, but there you go. That's Batman the Night. Catwoman, Lonely City, issue 3, Cliff Chiang, writing and of course the artist on this book. This is not the final book because I wasn't sure. I knew one of these Black Label books were 4 instead of 3, and this is the 4 because this did not end. That's a cliffhanger, and we'll be back. And I think August is when the 4th issue's out, so a bit of time to wait for it.
Which has been the thing with this book too, right? Like a lot of time in between. They're almost quarterly at this point.
Yeah, but I mean it's Cliff Chiang writing and drawing everything, and
right, which understandable.
Yeah, they're 50-page issues. I did appreciate there's kind of like a little premise on the credits page, which was just a nice refresh of like where we are, which I kind of liked, so I appreciate that. There's flashbacks in this issue to Selina's time in prison and her like befriending someone who wanted her help, and then that person seemingly being injured or killed by the end of it, and it being quite tragic. But yeah, there's so much to go because there's like 60 pages here, so I don't want to necessarily recap every beat of the book, but there's kind of a heist at Arkham where they're basically just there to try and take a little bit of Clayface. They just scoop a little bit off. Like they give him some dodgy food in the cafeteria so that he collapses, and one of them is dressed up as a EMT or whatever, and they come in and just scoop a bit of clay. And the whole plan is that they're going to get into the Batcave, which is where the heist is going to be. As we see later, they're basically going to use a bit of Clayface's clay to do like a Mission Impossible style fake face kind of thing. So they get like the commissioner's DNA, and then it's able to create the face. But because it's not actually connected to Clayface, it's not getting like they're on a time where the clay is going to be useless after a while. So there's all this going on. But there's a big tragic death when they're going away from Arkham. They do get chased by authorities, and they end up in the tunnels. The Bat Cops are coming for them, and it's Killer Croc's holding up this wall so the rest of them can escape. He gets riddled with bullets. The wall falls on top of him. He's buried under the rubble, and he begs Selina to shoot him because he wants a clean finish. He doesn't want to be taken by them. He doesn't want to die slowly. And Selina obliges and shoots him in the head.
Oh, man.
And then sheds a tear.
Yeah, okay.
So it's very emotional. It's a very this upset Matt scene.
Well, I'd say over the course of last year, Killer Croc's really become one of my favorite Bat villains.
Mm-hmm.
So to hear he gets a kind of noble, sacrifice himself death,
Yeah. And the art obviously is very good. It's Chiang, and it's very consistent. It's got that. It's mostly boxes. There's not a lot of like other shapes. It feels like a sort of prestige book in that sense because the facial the facials, I suppose I'll say, are really good. Like the way they react, the performances, if you will, of the characters are really good. And then Catwoman ends up sleeping with Riddler because they're kind of like, they're at Croc's funeral and they're kind of comforting each other. And eventually she says, "Hey, I'm round the corner." And he sort of double checks a couple of times to make sure she's sure that she wants to do this. But it's kind of this weird thing where these two old friends are kind of finding comfort in each other. And it does feel right in this Elseworld that this might be where this ends up. But there's a really sweet scene actually when they're basically stealing an artifact from the ocean, which turns out to be like a rock that has Dr. Fate's helmet in it. More on that in a minute. But there's a whole thing here where they're trying to make Catwoman feel better, so Poison Ivy and Riddler are kind of cracking some jokes and like, "Hey, this is like the old days. I'm half expecting Robin to show up." And they start like, cracking jokes where he's like, "Holy history buffs, Batman." And a Poison Ivy holds out her hands and goes, "You'll soon find my blooms are as deadly as they are beautiful." And Catwoman kind of snipes at them and says, "Stop joking around, guys." And it's kind of fun because they're basically reminiscing about the old days, but it's like all this like golden and silver age like cheesy dialogue they're saying as a joke. And it's kind of sweet because when they do this little heist to take this statue out of the museum, they have to work together. Catwoman can't like do it all on their own, so Ivy puts down some vines to help her, and when she comes back up, Catwoman sort of concedes a little bit and turns and goes, "You were perfect." And Ivy kind of smiles and says, "That's my girl." And it's kind of a sweet like, the old timers coming back together. Like it really does feel like they're being nostalgic for a time, and it kind of really fits the mood of the book. The other thing that goes on out here actually is that all the protesters who are protesting Mayor Harvey Dent start wearing this cat mask as kind of a symbol. It's kind of like V for Vendetta. They're taking Catwoman as kind of a symbol. He's getting really frustrated. So they take Dr. Fate's helmet to Jason Blood. They want Jason Blood to help because they don't have Croc anymore, so they have to try and like figure it out. And the thinking here is that Etrigan is going to replace what Croc's role in the plan was going to be, which makes sense.
The creature, yeah.
But Ivy starts to get worried that people are in danger because Croc died. She's even a little suspicious because some Bat Cops find them at one point, and she's worried that someone actually turned them in, and even suspects it might be Riddler. So she says, "You know what? To make everything the safe as possible, I'm like cutting half the people, and it's just going to be her, Ivy, and Jason Blood basically doing the heist." And they have to rush it when they weren't prepared for it because the clay's going to like fail. So Riddler and his daughter and like the young guy who was like the costume person's like nephew or whatever, like they're all told to leave. I'm sure they're going to be back in issue 4 though, and it's kind of sad when they're told to leave. The little sort of bickering fight that Riddler and Catwoman have, it feels really awkward, and you can just like see like his daughter in the other room just sort of like standing there like upset and awkward. You really feel kind of the it breaking down, and part of you almost wonders, is this because Catwoman like struggles to like accept personal relationships, and maybe that's part of the point of showing the prison flashback, is showing that when she gets close to someone they eventually get hurt, and she's trying to sever connections as best she can and sort of keep away from other people. And there's a lot of stuff in this issue as well, especially where she's kind of talking like she needs to just last a few more days, like another week, to get this heist pulled off. It doesn't matter if her body gives out after that, which kind of sounds like, you know, she doesn't care if she dies once she pulls off what she's trying to do. Because, you know, she's getting like these injections from Leslie Tompkins. She's like, hey, like, you can't have any more of these. You're getting too many of them. And she's like, I just need to hold out a little bit longer. It all feels kind of like, oh, like she might go out here. Like this story might end with her dying. Two-Face is getting pissy because there's all these like protests against him. He's putting like military police out in the streets with tanks and shit. The whole thing's really, you know, going to a boiling point. The big end of the issue though is them going to do this heist. Jason Blood wears the mask, pretending to be the commissioner to get the cops going. The cops though, one of them's a little suspicious and calls it in though, so it doesn't seem like it's completely worked. So they're probably going to show up and like interfere with the plan. But the end of the issue is that they ask Jason to, you know, bring out the demon, bring out Etrigan, and so he does. And the portrayal in this is actually quite horrific, because he says that, you know, every time requires a bit of a sacrifice. So you actually see his like body burn and his bones fall to the ground, and then a puff of smoke happens, and you know Etrigan's there. So that's the end of the issue. Is Etrigan like holding up Catwoman by the neck, and Ivy by the neck as well. So it's a big ending. Etrigan's obviously a big character to bring into it, in this way. I think what works for me in this is just how invested I am in all of the character stuff. It's all the personal relationships, and Ivy's kind of like, you know, the Catwoman Returns kind of vibe that we're getting from this, where it's her last hurrah, and not to compare it to Dark Knight Returns in the context of the story or anything, but just you know, I'm thinking this is her Logan. This more than anything, I suppose, is a better thing. You know,
it's her last ride, almost. Yeah.
So I think that feeling is really there in this, and it really feels like she's, you know, forging, looking back at relationships, but then shying away from them, and it's kind of her going through her cycles that makes sense for the character. In many ways, I think this issue might be the best so far, at least in the context of like really delving into her as a character, because there's been a lot of good stuff like building the characters around her before and building up the heist and the mystery of what's in the Batcave, what this thing is. But her, personally, I think this issue benefits the most out of the batch, because it really kind of feels like it's dealing with her psyche and how she's pushing people away, and I got a lot out of that. And it being triggered again because Croc is killed, and I know it's a decent scene, you know, and they've made Croc very likable in this story. It's really good. So it's a good time. It is a long read too, obviously it's a big issue, but that's why it's not because it's not long per page, it's just a lot of pages.
Right.
So, you know, you're at about 150, so it'll be 200 pages all in when it's all done, which is a nice book when it's all wrapped up. I would recommend it. I think, you know, I was pretty positive anyway in the first 2 issues, but I think now that I've read 3 out of 4, I'm quite happy to give it the seal.
Yeah, once the trade comes out, I'll probably give it, since I missed the first issue. But yeah, it does sound something up my alley, you know. But yeah, now another Croc dies. Oof.
Yeah,
I'm really sad.
Yeah. I mean, it goes to his funeral. They're at the bar, and there's like a bunch of like low-life criminals, all like, you know, giving him a eulogy and saluting him and all that. So there's a lot of sweetness in there. So yeah, Catwoman Lonely City is definitely worth checking out, as a lot of the Black Label books have. I'd probably give this issue, probably just a nice solid 9. Like, it's just really good. There's not a lot to fault in it. the characterization is obviously a little different because it's an Elseworld and it's in the future, but it feels very natural to Selina, and it feels like everything fits. And her accepting this new kind of family that she's been kind of building in the next issue when she brings back in Riddler and his daughter and the young guy, like that should feel quite sweet when it happens. If it does happen, then I'm hoping it does. I'm sure they'll still factor out the story in some way if that's not that, but it should be good. So that is Catwoman Lonely City issue 3. The Nice House on the Lake issue 8, James Tynion the Fourth. And Alvaro Martinez on art.
Bueno.
Oh, sorry. Do you want the middle name as well?
Yeah, isn't it Martinez Bueno?
I've always said Alvaro Martinez.
Oh my god, have I been thinking? Yeah, dude, it's Alvaro Martinez Bueno.
That's when.
That's been on every cover. I just have never realized that you only give his middle name.
It never used to be that because I've been saying his name since Detective Comics. There was definitely a time when it just said Alvaro Martinez.
Okay,
I'm pausing.
Guys, let Pete know. I can go back to Nice House #1, and it's been Bueno on there because I made the stupid joke that Bueno was good because that's what it means in Spanish.
I mean, I don't doubt that, but like, I'm sure I'm not just saying it this way because I just never noticed there was a third name.
Yeah.
Back in Detective Comics. Yeah. So this issue, obviously, we're in this like second version of everything now, where Walter's actually inside, and this story is kind of about how one of the characters, Sarah,
the strategist.
Yeah, it like notices like what he does with people. We see that in the flashback a little bit earlier when she's describing like that, he would get close to people but then shoo them away. And there's a nice touch here where she said she would make jokes about, oh, I'm on your list, but so and so is not on your list. And there's one that they mention, Ryan, who's actually there now because obviously one of the characters get pulled out of the house.
Right. So Ryan is the artist that was supposed to replace Reg.
Yes.
But Reg was kept in the secondary house where the writer is now.
Yeah. So now that Reg is back in the house, he didn't remove the replacement artist.
Right.
So.
And now it seems like there's a redundancy, and Ryan is kind of feeling that redundancy. She's
feeling like something's not quite right, and she's the odd one out. And there's a great moment where she tries to talk to Walter, and Walter like doesn't want to talk. And it makes a point of saying that he didn't like Ryan, like she was off the list.
Right.
But he goes off to talk to Sarah, and it's basically that Sarah like notices that Walter's the one because they don't know who Walter is in this new timeline. They don't know that he's behind this or that the world's supposed to have ended. And Walter he's the one that's saying, hey, we should keep doing it because they set up last issue that we're going to ask for a building, and this issue when we get to the present day stuff, it's like, oh, they've gotten this new little like hut, this little shed, and we see like plans throughout the issue for like a spa, for an observatory, for these different buildings they're going to keep adding, which is cool. And Walter suggests maybe we should add a farm, just in case they stop giving us food at some point. We'll have something sustainable and so on. And he keeps like suggesting plans that are for like sustainability when everyone else obviously wants to leave. They want to get out. They want to figure a way out and not be here permanently. And she's noticing this, and it's this constant thing where like this person's picking up on these details. We're seeing this other character feel the redundancy, so like the plan feels kind of flawed here. But we also see Walter go back and talk to
Sarah.
No. The one that's hidden now. Nora?
Oh.
What's it?
Yeah, Nora.
Yeah.
There we go.
So she's the one where Reggie used to be hidden now, this is where Nora's hidden. And Nora remembers everything, and Walter goes there to speak to her, and just like, he's upset that it's not working. He's like, no, like, this needs to work. And it's like, you can't have it both ways. Like, you either they're going to just want to go back home, or you tell them that the world's not supposed to be there anymore. Assuming that's true, but obviously, for all intents and purposes, we'll assume it is, then they'll hate you for it. You can't have it both ways, and that's what he's trying to do right now. And like, because of that, some of the characters are starting to notice that things don't feel quite right. There's cracks. There's things that don't add up.
Instead of just a couple of them at the beginning that were feeling like stuff wasn't quite right.
Yeah.
They're more because it just everything feels off and it feels like that's how just Walter deals with people is that he wants to always have it both ways, and that's why he removes people from the list. And now, because of them, and because of also wanting to include Reg, right, to have it both ways, it's seeming to be his undoing.
Yeah, I think one of the things I like about this is that it's very much an exploration of someone who is like a bit of a sociopath and like someone who does treat people around them like this. Obviously, in this case, it's really extreme because they can actually like have a list of people they save and so on. But it is definitely an analysis of that type of character. And the big, obviously, ending of this issue is that Sarah finds Nora. She doesn't know it's Nora yet, but the big ending is that like she like breathes in the glass where like Nora's been hidden, and she's able to write in the breath in the glass, the steam, and she writes hi, and she also tap, and she taps back. So like we have a character who has once again discovered the hidden person, and it may take a while to write on breath glass like this for more complex thoughts and ideas, but what is Sarah going to learn now from Nora?
All I could think of was Charlie on Lost, right on the other side of the glass. And I don't want to spoil Lost for anybody, so I'm not going to say what he writes, but that's what I immediately thought, and it gave me a chuckle. Even though I'm not supposed to, because I'm supposed to feel like the desperation here. Yeah. Right. On Nora's part.
Let me correct myself. It's not Sarah who finds Nora. It's Ryan.
It's Ryan. It's the other artist. Yeah. Who was friends, right? That was the first character we met, right? And that's what, she always stood out because she was the one that was friends with Walter, and there's like quite an age gap between her and everybody else, and I always felt like she was a key to things, and we've kind of gotten away from her until now, which I understand what Tynion's doing story-wise while you're wanting to showcase the different points of view, but it kind of makes for a murky storytelling here, because there's only 2 issues left. And unless he has this grand plan...
Whoa. No, there's not. There's 4 left.
Is there 4? I thought there was only 10.
That's 12.
Okay. Well, then, I retract my previous statement. I think what always confused me was the amount of symbols was always around that, right? And so I looked at the symbols, and we had 2 left. And I was like, oh, there's only 2 issues left. There's going to be 10 issues. Okay. Well, then I retract my statement of sticking the landing, because it feels like there's still way too much to go. But yeah, no, that doesn't seem to be a problem now. You sure there's 12?
Positive.
Okay.
Because the break was in the middle after issue 6. There's 12 issues. Matt's doing his research here. He's I want to mention the art towards the end. So it's like, the moment where she realizes there's someone on the other side of the glass in the steam, it's because it's a handprint. Nora puts her handprint on the glass, and like all of this art, like the leaning in, the listening, like beyond the glass. But that final page where she breathes in the glass, and then it's her expression looking through the word "hi" on the glass. It is gorgeous, and it is so atmospheric and moody, and it feels like a big moment. And there's a lot of build up as well. It's a great like just before she gets to the glass, there's a wide panel. It's very cinematic. There's a panel where she's like, her hair's blown in the wind, and you've got like out of focus grass in the foreground. It's like this very cinematic shot where she's like alone and moody, and it's raining. Like there's so much. It's just oozing atmosphere. I mean, the whole book is typically usually anyway, but that last scene is really oozing it.
All my issues that I was going to talk about are now, because I thought it was 10, and it's definitely 12. So, carry on with your art. I just had to admit I was wrong.
Another moment I wanted to bring up is that when Walter's talking to Nora, and Nora's obviously just not giving him an inch because he's their captor. When Nora says that Walter killed him, Walter just like his face goes into that monstrous, the way his face just breaks away and it's all red and disgusting, and he yells, "I didn't kill anyone, I saved you." This idea that he is this petulant child inside who can't take criticism, won't accept what he's doing is wrong, thinking that the world revolves around him. There's definitely a type of person that this character is very much emulating, and I think it's very interesting seeing this kind of temper tantrum moment come out of him. So I'm very curious to see where this is going now, because it's still tough to call in a lot of ways. And
yeah. It's also interesting that they wanted an antenna for this new shack, and they wouldn't put it in. So it's clearly part of that. They want them to know least as possible.
Well, here's the thing though: if the rest of the world is really gone, then what harm would giving them an antenna do?
Exactly, and that's why wouldn't they give them the antenna? Just and so that was mentioned, and I thought like in an observatory, it's like what are they trying to observe, right? Is it just to look at the stars? Is it So there's these little pieces there that I feel like Walter, because he's so like his plan's working now. Everyone's getting along, and he's trying to get them to kind of rebuild a society. And even the comedian guy kind of talks about, it's like, well, what if we all want our own house? Is that something that we could do? It's there. Walter's getting him to think of things his way, except there's all these little pieces there where they're not doing exactly that way, and he can kind of distract them. And I think that's what Nora kind of points out to him, is like, I didn't kill anybody, I'm saving you. So that's all he's thinking about is his plan. He's not thinking about the basically all the different gear works with these individuals. And that's, I think, why they're all starting to, well, not they're all, but Ryan for sure is feeling like something's wrong. Sarah, who's the strategist, right, knows Walter enough to realize that something's up.
Because I mean, and that's the whole thing at the opening. She's talking about how she used to joke with him about this list, and not really knowing it was a serious thing that meant anything. And obviously now, in hindsight, she knows exactly what the list is, and and it's this idea as well that what's going to be his undoing and why they might figure things out here is because he did change things because he didn't like being the villain to them. He wanted to try and be their friend again still, and it's created these flaws and plot holes, if you will, in the setup. That there's some of them are starting to notice, and some of them are starting to...
He's been a little bit too hands-on, right? Where he was too hands-off.
And if the whole point as well is to observe and like see what they do, then surely him being in there suggesting things is affecting the experiment too much.
Yeah, that is a thing you learn in science class, right? Is that you can't... Just by observing, you are, at least in some forms of science, you're changing the outcome.
Observing, I mean, maybe there's some examples, but I mean, observing normally is okay. That's the whole point. Right. You have to observe. But he's not observing now. No. He is directly interacting and influencing.
And it makes me wonder, too, is this the control group? Is there another group that they're comparing this group to? And that's why it's so important to him for them to get it right? Because it reflects on him. Because there's something more to Walter than even that we understand at this point, right? Like, we know he does that face shifting. Like, is he an alien? Is he a deity? Is he a demon type thing? There's got to be more of him. Maybe it's not just him, So why is it so important to him that he saved them? He didn't kill anybody.
Yeah, I mean, that's all fun speculation stuff. I right now I'm thinking more about just what the story represents and how mechanically... Fundamentally, this is a story about how someone who tries to control the people around him and how ultimately they're like it's going to be his own undoing, and how the story really feels like it's sort of heading in that direction now. Yeah. And it's his own like needs and fallacies that are going to get in the way. And I think that's super interesting from a story perspective.
We talked about that with Tynion's overall structure and stuff, right? Like with there are you can see themes that pop up in Department of Truth about this, which is all about control of a narrative, and that's where it feels like almost like Walter is losing control of that narrative. And what does that make him do? We already saw it made him restart it. How many times can he do this?
How many times has he going to start a new wrestling promotion called CYN?
Yeah, it's not. I shouldn't have said that.
Yeah, that stands for controlling your narrative, just for the record, just in case anyone doesn't get that reference. Don't look it up. It's basically just
it's bad. It's not.
It's mostly a bunch of wrestlers who got blacklisted for being you know, having a very particular point of view and being aggressive about it, who've then made their own league.
And then other wrestlers who take a booking on that show.
It's basically, it's really easy to compare this. This is basically the wrestling equivalent of that comic that got kickstarted, the Ethan Van Sciver one.
Mm-hmm.
It's meant to be the all like classic traditional the comic book that comic fans really want, with the shitty art with the muscles and sexist portrayals of women and all that stuff. That's basically what it is.
Yeah, and there's not, the smartest people aren't running it, so of course it's not. It's kind of the opposite of Nice House on the Lake, in that someone very smart is doing right storytelling. It's not a mess, so it's fun to laugh at though. Yeah.
I don't know. It's just a point of comparison, because I cracked a joke about.
I should have chose a different set of words, because especially what that's become in the wrestling community. But yeah. Yeah. But there's a line through Tynion's work that you can tell in his creator-owned stuff, which now I'm excited to get through Department of Truth and get to Something's Killing the Children, just to kind of see how that's playing in, because there is this overall art. He has ideas, and he's working them out through his comics, and I do feel like if you're reading them all, it makes like this patchwork quilt that is uniquely Tynion, which is super cool. I like when artists do that, like, and he always gets a great selection of artists to work with too. So, it really helps that going forward. But this is still good. I saw one of my Twitter friends said that he started to feel the cracks of this book. I don't necessarily agree, because I feel like those cracks we're supposed to see. Whatever feels flawed is there, I feel, by design. Because otherwise, this book read super. This was maybe one of the quickest reading issues, I feel. Like, there were some big chunks of dialogue, but like a lot of the stuff, because we know who these characters are now, there's almost a shorthand to it, and it really moves through the book, which I appreciate.
Yeah, I don't think there's any cracks, so I just disagree with that statement. But what are you rating Nice House on the Lake issue 8?
I'm gonna give this an 8.
Yeah, I think I will give it an 8.5. Really good stuff. There you go. Refrigerator Full of Heads, issue 6, Real Yours, and Tom Fowler on art. This is the last issue, I believe.
Yes, it is.
You read it, so on you go.
Yes. Yeah, so everything comes to an end here. We get a flashback of the two government agents, and they work at Los Alamos in this department of, like, basically it's the Department of Strange Metals, in that it involves the metal that created a lot of these artifacts comes from space and is from a meteorite. And so they're trying to track all of this down. It's from the Department of Defense Office of Irrational Metallurgy. And so they're tracking it down. They've tracked it down to Brody Island. And you find out that Calvin, the guy, is married with a baby on the way. Because of course he is. Because this is like an any 80s type thing. And he has something else to live for, which is why he ended up dying earlier in the book. And that his partner is so, excited for him, which then, that ends with her smiling to her just being covered in blood with a grimace on her face, driving the shark truck to the home that what's his name? The old sheriff is at, who he has June. He's in his full snake form still. She drives the shark truck straight into his snake form, and it just starts taking pieces of him. It gets pretty grisly. She's gonna get June out. He reforms the snake body, but not before the lady agent throws the axe to June, and she cleaves the claws in two. Which takes away his power. She gets the belt off of him that turned him into a giant snake. They're fighting on the ground. He's trying to get the axe. And she just kind of throws the belt away. Not realizing it, she threw the belt onto the shark head, which has now given this snake body a ravenous shark's head. and it ends up chewing up what's left of Clausen and leaves her with the axe. And the lady agent ends up, cutting the shark's head off with the axe and just totally destroying it, leaving, nothing there. We get the police and the actual police showing up. They arrest the mayor because of what he has to do. They find the Valkyrie girl with the sword in her head. So they pull that out, and it's just a nasty looking crime scene. They find all the heads in the refrigerator, and they're talking. One of them says, "Hey there." But June and the lady, which I feel like I should know her name, but as I'm reading, I can't find it. Just basically saying that there's this is all over. You're not gonna have to worry about it again. You're just gonna have to answer a bunch of questions from the government. And they put all the heads in these boxes, and they're missing the belt. So they have the axe, the sword. I forget what the fourth item was, but they are missing the belt. June and her are talking, and that just basically everything's so dark. But she says, I would tell you to be strong, but you need to embrace the light with your soul, because the soul's a shining light. It illuminates everything, and it gives you stuff to live for. And that she tells June that this is just the start of your journey, and it won't stay dark forever. It's because the sun always comes up. And they drive over the bridge, and it goes to a bit of a flashback to 24 minutes before her and June are talking, and a deer comes out of the forest to the house where everything has gone on, and it's the deer that was carrying the biker's head. And he's like, no, it's glowing. You got to pick it up. And he instructs the deer to pick up the belt, to which then he drops the belt onto the guy. And that's where it ends. So it seems like they're trying to leave it open for maybe a sequel if they want. But I also feel like, tying this to the meteorite, there's a bigger story here that I feel with Hill House is there, because it was making me think of the Dollhouse family and the mythology that was built into there. And yeah, so it definitely feels like a Hill House book. It's a whole lot of fun. I would recommend reading it to anybody that, if you've listened to me talk about it for 6 issues. It's a whole lot of fun, but it is very different from Basket, which I feel is much more prestigious. That definitely feels like when you're looking at like 80s horror movies, this one is definitely more of like the, not Slaughterhouse, or what's the word I'm looking for. It's more of a grisly slasher that's like a splatter movie, that's just meant to be fun. Whereas I feel like Basket had a much more deeper story of corruption and whatnot. That's here, but not, it's not as deep. But yeah, no, the Tom Fowler's art's pretty good throughout. Like the art of the Snake Man just getting annihilated by the shark head at first, and then the shark head growing onto the snake. It's just really fun stuff, and it goes not quite over the top, but just on that line of gore. But yeah, no, refrigerator full heads, 7.5.
Cool. Yeah. It's something I'll probably read at some point when I'm in the mood, because I feel like it's something I would read quite quickly as a trade.
Yeah, it definitely will. And again, it's a lot more. I throw fun around a lot like it's meaningless, but there is a sense to it that is a lot more fun. Just even the art style and everything than the first was. Like you have Viking bikers, like it's just kind of over the top in that way, and I really enjoyed it.
All right, cool. Well, I'll take us out of the part of the show. We pick our favorite stuff of the week, favorite panel / moment, favorite cover, favorite art, and top 5 books of the week. So we'll start off with moment / panel. So what you got, Matt?
Oh man, the Knight had a couple, and those fight scenes that was real good. World's Finest, refrigerator full of heads. You have the snake truck, the whole thing. But I'll go from World's Finest. I brought up a little bit. It's when Batman sneaks up on I think it's Rita of the Doom Patrol with Robin, and I was like, yeah, he does that. I thought that was a real fun moment.
Yeah, there's a couple of Nightwing that I'm tempted by, but I think I'm going to go with Catwoman Lonely City and go where the couple of panels where Riddler and Catwoman, or Riddler and Ivy, I should say, are intentionally kind of doing cheesy Silver Age dialogue and sort of harkening back and reminiscing about old times. It really gave me a good chuckle, and it kind of did feel like people like looking back in their earlier, sillier days. So I thought it worked really well. All right, cover of the week. What you got?
I was looking at some of the other ones. Juan Faraya did one for Refrigerator Full of Heads. It's pretty cool, but it's really hard to not go with the Nightwing cover, where it's him and Flash standing there with the Flash lines making the Nightwing symbol. Like that's an iconic image. That's poster worthy.
Yeah, that's really nice. There's some nice solid ones. I actually really like the cover of World's Finest. It's a very typical looking cover, but Dan Mora's art's just really good, so it's quite pretty on those terms. But yeah, I'm probably going to go with the main Nightwing cover as well. It's just really nice, good design. So all right, art of the week, Matt. What you got?
World's Finest, Dan Mora. Like, it's not even a. I mean, Giandomenico might give it a fight, but it's Dan Mora.
Yeah, I've got a little bit of a harder time with Lonely City.
Chiang.
But I'm not even picking that, though. I'm picking Alvaro Martinez, Bueno. So, and he's won a lot of times that we've had a nice in the Lake issue out. And it's kind of close between that and Chiang, because Chiang might even be his best issue yet at Catwoman Lonely City. But like everything, especially towards the end with the glass and the rain and the drawing and the steam and stuff, like all really good stuff. So yeah, I'm going with Nice House in the Lake with Martinez. All right, top 5 books, Matt.
All right, number 1 is Nightwing, because I gave him the same. I go Nightwing, World's Finest, Nice House on the Lake, The Night, and Refrigerator Full of Heads.
Yeah, I guess I'm going number 1, Catwoman, Lonely City. Number 2, Nightwing. Number 3, World's Finest. Number 4. Oh wait, no, hold on. Hold on. Number 1, Catwoman, Lonely City. Number 2, Nice House in the Lake. Number 3, Nightwing. Number 4, World's Finest. And then number 5. What are my choices here? Is that a Flash or The Night? I'll go the Flash at number 5. I'll be a little different.
There you go.
It's a really good week though. Like, you know, I had a really nice, consistent level of quality.
Yeah.
So, good stuff. So I will take this time to tell you what is coming next week from DC Comics. So, out next week, we have Detective Comics 1059. We have Justice League 75. So it's a big week in larger continuity sense. We've got the big event issues coming out. We have Action Comics 1042, Dark Knights of Steel issue 6, Robin issue 13, The Joker issue 14, Batman Beyond the White Knight issue 12. Oh, sorry, issue 2. Sorry. The Swamp Thing issue 12, which is what I was looking at there. Harley Quinn issue 14, Deathstroke Inc. issue 8, which we all have to read because it's part of the Shadow War crossover. Yeah. Teen Titans Academy issue 14, Rogues issue 2. Oh, next week's a big week, man.
Yep. I'm gonna start reading as soon as I wake up on Tuesday.
Yeah. Trial of the Amazons issue 2. I'm suddenly very glad that we're not reading that crossover. Aquaman issue 3 and Aquaman Green Arrow Deep Target issue 7. So yeah, a lot of big stuff next week. Yep. I'm suddenly regretting not getting a Patreon book in this week. But yeah, lots of big stuff. So the big things though sticking out to me, other than just the fact that we've got great issues potentially of Action Comics and other things, is Justice League, which is the Death of Justice League big special issue, and then of course the fact that we have Rogues issue 2, which is a big Black Label book. But yeah, a lot of exciting stuff in there. So
yep, cool. And just so everyone knows, it's Deathstroke Inc. is part 3 of Shadow War, Robin's part 4. So there's the reading order there.
I never even thought of that. That's a good point. Yeah.
I checked the covers, and that's what they say.
Joe, it'd have been really nice if the part 3 came out this week. It'd have been a nice thing, but whatever.
Well, it's Williamson week because you got Death of the Justice League, you got Robin, you got Deathstroke, you got Rogues. Like, they've been doing this a lot.
Yeah, he's got 4 books out next. That is so weird.
They do it occasionally with Taylor when, Superman will drop the same time as Nightwing or whatever.
Yeah, but that's 4 is a lot in 1 week.
Yeah. So, and they're all stuff that I want to read, not that I have to read.
Oh, sure, but yeah, it's
man, that a lot of good covers too, because Swamp Thing, that's real good. And of course the Rogues. I just spoiler, my cover next week will probably be Rogues. It's a giant gorilla.
I'm not going to give any of my potential picks because I've not looked yet. So yeah, thank you very much to our Patreon producers of Tyler Hess, Cindy Palacios, David Sharp, Bordow, Christopher Moy, David Brown, Al Tradesman, and Alison M. 4 days. That is obviously one of the higher tiers over at patreon.com/MailFuzzTV, where you can support everything we do in the podcast for as little as $1 per month. At the $5 tier, you get it whenever it's ready on the Saturday night, rather than the go time on the Sunday, if that's of interest. But either way, go and have a look and see if you want to support all the content. And check out other content from MailFuzz TV and MailFuzz movies. There's horror and sci-fi movie podcasts. Me and Cara do a TV news podcast every week over MailFuzz TV. So go and have a look at those, see if you're interested in any of that stuff. And of course, you can support everything we do by liking, subscribing, sharing on Twitter, at DC Comics Podcast on Twitter if you want to find us on there, and all the usual things. Spread the show around, all that simple stuff. It's all good. So yeah, there you go. That's my plugging out of the way. And we'll be back next week for episode 303. And I don't think Connor will be back. I think his days off are like Tuesday and Wednesday, so he's not even close to.
Just the way you said that, I would make you the prime suspect. And if he goes disappeared. I don't think Connor will be back. Weird, but anyways.
As I sharpen my axe just off camera, yes. So hopefully he's back the week after that. Yeah, so that is the plan for next week. We've got a lot of books to talk about. Luckily though, it's not a solicitous week or anything, so we can get straight into the books next week, and I imagine it'll be a solid 3 hours of just book talk. But yeah, that's what's coming up. So yeah, there you go. That's the show. That's been episode 302, and I'm glad because I'm hungry and I want to go order food. So
yep, order food.
Yeah, that's the plan. So thank you once again for joining us. We always appreciate it. Keep reading DC Comics, and remember to never get lost in the Speed Force.
And someone put a fish in the percolator.